Hi everyone, Andy Muir here, co-founder of Coach Logic, joined by Tom Hounsell of St Mary's University. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Good man. So yeah, to give Tom his full due as such, Tom is Programme Director for the suite of football coaching programmes at St Mary's University. So I'll let Tom explain a little bit more about that as we obviously go through. And he's also head coach of under-15s at Fulham Football Club and works with the under-16s there as well. So we'll maybe touch on this later on, Tom. I always think it's nice to have a balance where you're obviously in the academic side of things, but you're also sort of out on the grass as such as well. And you're saying that you've had a nice return to get, we won't go on about COVID really in this, but you've had the opportunity to get back out in the grass in the last couple of weeks. You've been enjoying that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a long wait, 6 months. I think it's good to see the players. A lot of them have shot up over the summer months, which is nice. And just good to be back coaching. I think bored of the risk assessments. It's nice to put them into action. I think so. Yeah.
Good stuff. So just as we've done before, we'll go through. Tom shared a few photos, which we'll maybe get into later on. But we'll obviously find out a little bit more about Tom and his background initially. We'll cover a lot of the really good work that they're doing at St Mary's University, and also maybe just look at what Tom thinks, sort of his own personal ambitions for the future and where he thinks the sort of direction of sort of coach and player development is going as well. So looking forward to getting stuck into it. You ready to go, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, let's do it.
Good man. Okay, right. So I guess first up, if you could maybe just give us a little bit of a background, Tom, and just sort of leading up to how you ended up at St Mary's.
Yeah, so I actually studied at St Mary's as an undergraduate. It's got a way of sort of bringing people back to the fold. It's hard to escape, but I think that's because of the generally the institution and its values and the way in which people are committed to. But then, the commitment to supporting coaches and young people is something that was really evident when I was a student, and something that we continue to try and strive for now. So I was a student there, and I had ambitions to go and coach. Never really initially had an idea where that would be, or whether that would be specific to football or just generally other sports. But was really lucky to get a role with Fulham in the foundation whilst I was a student there, and met some really influential people who I'm still very fortunate to work with now and call friends. So the mixture of the two provided a really good opportunity when I left to work for the foundation in what is like a football and education program. So I got to coach 11-side football every day. Really probably develop the craft and have a lot of flexibility and autonomy in the development of both the players, but also that gave me enough flexibility to be able to consider my own development across that time as well. And then ended up then working for FC Wimbledon as a academy coach, and then I was there for a couple of years, and then moved to Fulham. But through that whole time, I basically did some hourly paid academic work so still kept in touch with the key academics at the institution, and was still very much part of the programs. And then really when there was the development of our collaboration with Chelsea Football Club, with our foundation degree and bachelor's degree, there was an opportunity to move across sort of full time. And I've been at St Mary's now for sort of four years, I think. Time flies, so all the time just ravels into one. But so started off lecturing on those programs, and then we've had really had a real progressive development of a portfolio of programs to really develop a specific specialism, a specialist area, I suppose, and that has maybe morphed into the role I have now, which is to oversee this sort of suite of programs and some other postgraduate provision as well. And then I've just maintained my position at Fulham as an academy coach. I think the blend's really nice. I think it allows me to have a bit of a understanding of maybe some of the challenges that practitioners face still, and maybe some of the current trends in terms of, particularly within football, but just generally some of the trends that are happening in coaching. And I think that's really important, probably for our postgraduate programs mainly, because we have a lot of professionals on those programs too. So understanding some of the problems that they may face, I think, is important. Then recently just also taken on just some responsibility in terms of research and innovation at the club as well. So things are maybe tied together perhaps nicely.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come up a little bit as we go through, and certainly the photos that you've shared would back this up. But I guess the university is quite outward looking in terms of you've got a lot of ties directly into the industry, which is obviously, well, it's great for you as one of the members of staff there, but also really good for the students.
Yeah, I think one of our key objectives certainly from the programs that sort of the team work towards is we want to be of service to people, particularly our students. And one of the key objectives for universities is to it should be a catalyst for students to gain employment, and the earlier we can expose our students to professional environments, just the easier it is that that transition is for the students, not just from a skills perspective, but also just some core professional qualities, and even just the ability to network with individuals. It's increasingly important, and the sooner we can allow students to access organisations, gain different experiences, expose themselves to different influences, I think is really important. So it's something that we strive for, and we also strive for diversification in those experiences as well across professional organisations. So we don't just want to link with the biggest and the best and maybe the most mainstream. We're also really interested in exposing our students to as many different experiences to ultimately inform their decision making around what they want to do with their future careers.
Cool, that sounds really good. And what made me think as well then is around about I guess how important sort of some key behaviours are to people's success, and going back maybe to you as well in terms of sort of behaviours that you've maybe seen through your eyes and seen other people and that have really stuck with you, whether that's been people you've actually worked directly with, or maybe seen from afar, or actually even some of the students that have come through. And is there sort of any sort of key behaviours that sort of always jump out to you as being really important to be successful in this sort of industry?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an obvious one, but hard work first and foremost. I think some of the individuals who I consider as being really influential are just people who have a really clear idea about what they want to do, and then they work really hard to get there. And that that means often that means saying yes to lots of different experiences, putting themselves in really uncomfortable circumstances, and also doing things for free, being willing and open, and seeking opportunities. And I think that's that doesn't come for free. And I think at times, particularly maybe in the media, millennials are maybe harshly described as wanting things too early and too soon, and actually trying to carry yourself with the understanding that things take time, and it's really important to invest in yourself to be able to expose that. And I think, if I'm honest, these two pictures and these two individuals are a brilliant example of that. Both have just left the Chelsea program, but we have Ollie Moore on the left. He's actually presenting at a event that we host, but he's presenting around investment and the need as a student to invest in time, volunteer, go and gain experiences. Then have Gemma on the Taylor on the right, who is presenting on her dissertation with us. And both these students probably encapsulate those qualities, I think, which is really positive. If anything, if we can embody those, maybe some of those principles or behaviours, and if that's transcended onto our student cohort, then brilliant. We run in essence, we call them football takeover events, but they are free to attend networking opportunities where we get 8 guests from industry speak for 8 minutes. but we ask one of our students to present at the same time. So they have to, stand up in front of an audience of professionals, other students, peers, staff, colleagues, and present on a topic for 8 minutes. And Ollie really kicked things off last year and it was a really great story about having an investment mindset. And he's probably somebody who's embodied that. He's just transitioned into a full-time position with Chelsea Football Club Foundation. But somebody who, worked part-time through his studies, volunteered on student youth councils, but was always destined for success because of his attitude and his willingness to give up his time to go and seek new opportunities. And yeah, Gemma on the right, who dissertation was evaluating a program that Chelsea have in partnership with Felton Young Offenders. So she actually went into the prison and developed a program to help behavioural change, but also it's a sort of rehabilitation and reoffending program. So she works with the prisoners, the young people who had a really short period of time left at their time in prison in their sentence, and she worked with them to complete some skills that hopefully transcend them into employment post their release. So a really, really interesting project, putting herself out there massively. There's times where she was leading sessions in the prison on her own. She dragged us in, which from this picture, for some five-a-side tournaments and stuff, which is really cool. Yeah. So and she's just likewise just gained employment with Fulham's Foundation, doing some youth offending work with them. So yeah, probably two really great examples of people who have done that, and hopefully examples of how that transcends into maybe the degree programs that we have. And these two have now, in a really tough environment, transitioned into full-time employment, straight away after their degree. So yeah, really, really influential. And I think it's important to say, like, how much I still learn from these guys. When we talk about influential people, I think automatically individuals start to consider, think hierarchically, like people maybe who've managed them or whatever. But I think, students for me are the most influential people still, because they teach you so much, but these two in particular, just how honest they are, how hardworking they were, and ultimately so sort of humble through that process as well. So yeah, really pleased for both of them.
That's cool. So yeah, it's really cool. And you mentioned obviously earlier about it's not all about going to work with Chelsea and Fulham as well, in terms of the impact that you guys can have. So maybe a good time then to just dive in a little bit more specifically into some of the courses that you're offering, obviously, especially around about the MSCs. You've obviously mentioned the foundation degree as well. You want to give us a bit more information around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a foundation degree and 1 year top up, so a bachelor's with a partner with Chelsea Football Club Foundation. And I think it's a really exciting program where individuals can come and do an academic program, but ultimately their practical experiences are, they are embedded in a professional organisation, so they actually can, really go and apply theories and concepts that they learn on the course into real life settings. Then we have a Masters in Performance Football Coaching, which is an online distance learning Masters, has a real global outreach. I think we have, near on a student from most continents in the world. And it's a brilliant course because you get people you get such a diverse group of people. We really strive to have lots of different individuals from different domains, different backgrounds, different experiences. And that really transcends into the networking opportunities that students can have on that degree program. We have one sort of like optional on-site period a year, and where everyone comes together, and yeah, we had a really great, unfortunately we couldn't do it this year, naturally, won't mention COVID because you said we can't, but we the year before was fantastic, like had a really good networking opportunity. All I did is I just served tea and coffee. Everyone just naturally had some really great conversations, and individuals moved into some really cool roles as a consequence of those collaborations people made, which is always pleasing to see. And then we've launched 2 new programs this year. A 2-year accelerated degree in sport performance analysis and talent ID, which is, I think is really cool. I think it goes to the point which we really want to be value for money for our young people, and that basically means they, instead of having the summer off, they'll continue their studies, but within that degree they have a season-long placement. So literally from September till May, they go off and are on placement with a professional organisation to do some performance analysis and talent ID work, which again just links back to the applied nature of the programs. And then a new master's program in professional development with specialisms. So we have specialisms in performance analysis, in sports coaching, and rugby performance. Really excited about the rugby performance. Not to privilege it across the other specialisms, but that was probably developed in line with some of our work that we've done over a sustained period of time, probably the last 5 years with Leinster. So myself and Michael Ayres and a few colleagues other colleagues, Sam Page, Amy Price, Liam, Fiona, we went over there, and we've Michael's been crucial and integral to this, but developed a sort of learning program with them over a sustained period of time, and we really were conscious that we wanted to begin to validate that and have an opportunity for the learners to be able to actually, if they wanted to, actually gain some credit and some academic credit, that is for the work that they've been doing. So that program's been a long time in the making, I think, and it's nice to see it come to fruition this year with our first cohort.
Because obviously a little bit about the Leinster Program, and you mentioned there about the sort of diversity, and you talked a little bit almost about the geography, because the course is basically done remotely, which is, I guess, sort of pretty unique in terms of that sort of level of course and the Masters and that nature of that course, where it is obviously around about coaching. But you must also, I say you must, but I'm assuming you've got a diverse group in terms of, I'm going to use the word, but where people are in their journey, in terms of their sort of professional journey. So, whether they've just come out of finished their undergraduate, or whether they've been in the industry for 5-10 years, what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it probably goes back to the point I made previously about around just being of service to people, and for higher education to be accessible for everyone. And we're really working hard to try and achieve that. So we have we have maybe a more traditional pathway for students who maybe have studied an undergraduate before and moved into master's level, but we also have a non-degree entrance pathway for and that really opens up the field of people who can access the program. So individual coaches who maybe didn't have had other careers and moved into coaching later on in their lives, coaches who've coached for 40 years, 30 years, and have loads of personal resource that they can bring to the program, ex-professionals, current professionals, across sports. And all that does is just create a really brilliant networking opportunity for individuals who can share these experiences and skills that they've developed over a sustained period of time. So we think it all it does is enrich the program, and it's nice to see individuals. It's also nice to see individuals network from across different age groups as well. So someone who's just come out of uni can learn so much from somebody who's coached in the field for such a sustained period of time, or played professionally, and it's almost like an added value for the individuals on the program.
You just maybe think of something as well, the young ones potentially learning from those that have been out and about, but equally flipping that. And we talk a little about that sort of Generation Z and how their sort of view in the world, and even just with regards to their sort of engagement with people, with technology and what have you, but also so those coaches that have been out there for 20-30 years actually getting the opportunity to have a conversation with someone who's just come out of uni, who is actually much more likely to be closer to the age of the people that they're coaching potentially as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that you make a great point. That shared resource is it's not one way, that's for sure. So yeah, it's really great. It's equally really great to see. You know, and what we also do on the program is which is maybe slightly different, is we also get students to like share their assessments. So, you know, traditionally you know, in higher education, you'd sort of you'd get set an assessment, you'd go away, you'd do your piece of work, and then you'd submit it, and no one would ever really see it. But, you know, we get our students to blog, for example, about the problems and how they are making sense of it in line with some of the content that's delivered. And then they comment on each other's blogs, for example. So that's just one really like great way of already like, it's a real like leveler, because people are sharing stuff, and yeah, suddenly somebody's come out of these like new innovative ideas, you know, from university, which is brilliant. Also from an academic skills perspective, where they've just been in touch with an undergraduate program, you know, they come out of university and are actually, you know, some of those more academic skills, they've got honed in, they're really well developed, so they can also support other learners in the development of those skills. And then likewise, which is a real benefit of our, you know, use of Coach Logic, is also just the ability to share practice. You know, share practice from across the world is, you know, it's unbelievable. I think because you get a really insight into other cultures, but also from a resource perspective, you know, people are dealing with challenges across the world where, you know, actually they might have a brilliant facility, or they're only allowed access to a pitch for a certain period of time, or you know, there's so many different contextual variables. But then you have this brilliant thing where people can, yeah, help collaborate and communicate, and yeah, really help each other to be a bit of a sounding board, bounce ideas off each other. And it's brilliant to see.
That's cool. And I guess, without going into the why, potentially there's going to be less travel naturally over the next sort of year to 18 months, 2 years. So actually having that opportunity you mentioned the word culture and how different cultures are, you know, around the world and what have you. So it's quite interesting from that point as well. So I just thought, so that's cool. I like that. And just going back to some of the images that you shared, just be good to maybe sort of talk through a little bit more of what you've got. So you've obviously got this one, maybe connect to what we've spoken about before, about the sort of wrapping Christmas presents and what have you.
Yeah. So one of our objectives of the program is to really ensure that we are having an impact locally around the institution, but also recognising that the power of sport and how it can influence social change, but also can really help develop and change people's lives. And the Chelsea program, we collaborated with a local charitable organisation, which basically puts on a Christmas day for care leavers. So you know, there's you know, a sustained probably like problem with people who are in care in this country, and then once they get to 18, you know, they leave that care that they had previously. So this is about putting on a Christmas day for those individuals, and our students helped fundraise for presents. This is taken from the wrapping of those presents for the young people, but the sort of TCD Richmond, who we linked with, and you know, Joe and Sean just do unbelievable work at putting on a Christmas day for young people. And that, you know, that's from sourcing a venue to making sure, you know, they have presents, a meal, people to speak to and communicate with on Christmas Day. So it's something that we're committed to for this year as well. And you know, they're really consciously aware that they want it to feel as sort of normal as possible. So, you know, they put on cabs for the young people. They don't want to sort of bust them in, because, you know, that's not going to give the sense of a Christmas Day that we all probably at times take for granted. So yeah, we're really pleased with how that, you know, links to our program. Is through, we have a professional development module which has a really flexible and malleable curriculum, and it's just about who our learners are and how we can help support them to become more well-rounded young people, professionals, individuals who give back to community and can impact local people, through sport and the engagement through some of our collaborative partners. We were really fortunate that we were gifted some really great great things to give to the young people, tickets to games, football shirts, those types of things, which we were really happy that people like Chelsea, Fulham, the Premier League were really supportive of. So it was a great day, and it was probably what we probably see in there is how the four lads had no idea how to wrap a present prior. So at least their loved ones got a slightly better wrapped gift after wrapping hundreds of presents as well.
And it's just as we move on to the next one as well, the what you mentioned there about being well-rounded people, like I guess if you're people talk about in coaching obviously, and sort of best managers in the world, talking about how important putting the person first. So I guess naturally you might have quite a limited experience of different types of people, regardless of whatever your background is, whether it's deemed to be a real sort of strong positive background or a less positive one. You're still kind of restricted to the people around about you. So actually, again, giving those different opportunities will actually help them become better coaches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's trying to change some of the we're really conscious of like the individuals come onto the program and have really big aspirations, which is absolutely fine, but they are always the same, which is I want to work for a men's academy, or I want to be a first team coach. And I'm not saying we can't do these things, but it's a really, sport and football in particular does so much other work that perhaps goes unnoticed. And unless you experience those things, you're never going to be in a position to endeavour to be a part of it. So we're really, really keen to just show our young people actually what the power of sport can be, particularly football, because it's so well resourced and so well loved. So this image is always makes me happy, because we, regardless of our intent, we have a sport that's still very much male dominated, and I think you can see that from maybe the impacts of COVID, like some of the most under-resourced programs, some of the teams that maybe have had I've been furloughed for a sustained period of time or haven't yet to return our female teams, women's teams, and we set up this program where for our work placement students, all of our students did 25 hours volunteering for a local grassroots girls team. And we then developed the idea that we wanted to, for International Women's Day, we wanted to celebrate this, and we brought all of those grassroots teams to Cobham at Chelsea's training ground. We put on a tournament. So the guys also from the program, our FDSC first year level 4 students, they completely organised, ran the event, coached the teams, ref the games, and with great support from Chelsea. So it was just a really inspirational opportunity where we could take perhaps some, for the first time ever, these young people actually got to experience, the training ground, the facilities, the resources, and it's just our ongoing commitment to help support the female game, but also just provide opportunities for young people, not only the young girls who got to attend on the day, but also our students who actually may have never considered, particularly, it's a relatively big assumption, but most of the lads who had maybe not considered working in the female game prior, to also just begin to recognise that actually the work that they do can be really influential on young people. So it was a really great event. We had sort of over 100 girls attend, and we intend to do the same. So it was really pleasing that we could support International Women's Day, but it was even better that we could do that transcended into our local community.
Yeah, it's cool. It sounds like the programs are really sort of balanced as well. So you've had some sort of, I guess, out and about shots, and this obviously what it says St Mary's on it. So back on campus.
Yeah. Again, I suppose this is just a reflection of what we already talked about, which is trying to partner with people who, this is actually Saracens, but we were really fortunate that they offered us the opportunity to help support our students develop some ideas around wheelchair rugby. And we, again, like, although we have maybe a football narrative, we recognise that actually, the development of skills outside of our sport is going to be really important. But then likewise, just being able to have the skills and requirements to actually be able to help support lots of different individuals. And what we don't want to do is we have students who aren't flexible, can go into different environments, can actually help every young person that is in their care for that day. And I saw a recent podcast with Rob Townsend, actually, who's well sort of published in sort of disability sport, and he was talking about his experiences of coaching disability athletes for the first time, and just how felt really ill-equipped and not necessarily prepared to give a really good experience. So we're really keen to give our students the opportunity to understand how they might support young people, but also actually what it must feel like to be one of those athletes. And we're really fortunate that at St Mary's we have a set of wheelchairs that we can use, which I think helps just give a bit of an insight into actually what it must feel like to be an athlete as well, for in terms of like a technical requirement for the actual sport. And I think these students really loved the opportunity. We were really fortunate that one of our students from one of the other programs is an athlete, is part of the team. So he came in and spoke about his experiences of being able to access sport and how this program from Saracens helps support that. So a really great opportunity for our students to get involved in something outside of their comfort zone, and I mean that more from a sport perspective than anything. Putting the football to one side and considering how they might support athletes across sports as well.
Yeah, that's cool. It's really interesting. And you mentioned about the Rob Townsend, obviously, podcast. You've got a bit of the next image up is about podcasts. And
I mean, this is one of the things, and I suppose it links to where we see the future. I think we've just launched this, but we are really keen. Again, it goes back to the added value piece and the additional service to our students. So, we've launched the Half Space podcast. Really fortunate that we have a lecturer in Claire Mulvenna who edits our podcast, and we've had a really great array of guests across sports, across disciplines, across domains, and we use this as a real sort of added value piece for our students, but also helps bring to life some of the content we talk about in our lectures. So we can actually go to the field and talk to expert practitioners about different areas. So really pleased with our ability to be able to provide content for our students in lots of different ways. And I think that's as we move forward into an ultimately a new era of what coaching, player development, coach development will look like. It's going to be about trying to be able to provide things in really innovative and like creative ways. And I think for us, if we can, and also extend and transcend the classroom. So for our work with Coach Logic, that's a brilliant example of that, because we can engage with students outside of the formal classroom. But likewise with a podcast, we can ask them to listen to this on their way to the lecture, and then it's the discussion point when you first get in. You can either stick it on in the car or whilst you're on public transport, ever. So automatically it just means that you can have things that transcend outside of the lecture theatre, which I think is really important.
The opportunity to sort of connect in other ways is definitely important, and everyone's got different things going on in life. Life is definitely not rigid these days, so that ability to be able to connect in lots of different ways is definitely become more and more important. So, and last photo of you, we've got a nice, well, it's not you, but sunshine and smiling faces.
I think this image for me is just again just makes me smile. So it was actually sent in from a coach at Chelsea, and Abdul on the left is one of our students. So he was part of the Chelsea Football Club Foundation program. Got a job with the Premier League, and this is actually him in India. So before lockdown, went out to India to basically host a tournament to impact the local community out there. So there was different football clubs out there, but it was probably the picture that puts all the pieces together. So a connection, one of the coaches from the club messaging one of our members of staff because one of our students is out there doing a great job. It's a really great reflection of, links to employment, the individual going above and beyond, being prepared to work in for what is a big organisation, being prepared to do that during their studies, and then actually going out and traveling, experiencing different cultures, and being part of a project that is maybe from, if we take our level 4 students, about impacting locally, to then by level 6 before they leave us impacting globally. I think it's just a brilliant story. So it's always pleasing, and to be fair to Abdul, he's always smiling. So he could be in a bad mood in that photo and no one would know. So
fair enough. Much like yourself, Tom, always smiling.
That's definitely. It depends who you ask.
Cool. And so that's cool. That's really interesting. I think it really comes across, like, obviously with the university, how flexible you guys are, and being really proactive at engaging with the environment round about you and beyond, in lots of different ways as well, like you say. So rather than it just being, well, let's see who can go and get to the big clubs, it's actually the impact that you have round about that's really important. So that's really interesting. Didn't know that much, in terms of all the work that you guys do. So it's cool to hear a bit more about that. And just to wrap up a little bit then, like, where do you see the sort of future with all that stuff, and what are the ambitions, maybe of you personally, but also obviously of the university to continue to grow what you've started?
Yeah, I think I'm really fortunate that I'm afforded a position at the moment which allows not only myself but also the team of people that work on these programs sort of flexibility to actually develop a real strategy over the next 3 to 5 years, which probably isn't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if higher education's ever had to think in that type of manner before, around how are we actually going to maneuver these programs to be reflective of what the needs of the individuals are in the industry. We're really fortunate that we're developing, or we have started to develop, a really great portfolio of programs that do provide students the opportunity to have enough flex to be able to continue to experience stuff from industry at the same time as their study, which I think is really, really important. I think that really helps them contextualize and make sense of some of the content. So I think we want to continue to grow our football narrative, but also just the narrative that we can support coaches across sports and across disciplines. Our ambitions are pretty big. We feel like we are well placed to do that within London, but also within the country and globally, due to the nature of the programs that we have. And we see that growing over the next period. And for me personally, my ambitions are it's really cool to be part of that, to be able to strategize and be able to oversee a project like that. I think is really, they're really useful life skills, I think, which I feel really fortunate to have despite my receding hairline, my young age, I suppose, in academic terms anyway. I'm really pleased about that. But I think part of that is not losing connection to the field. So I'm really fortunate we have a set of staff that are all active practitioners, which I think is really unique. But they also are all invested in developing their research profiles as well. So I think having the blend of all three is really beneficial. It's probably relatively unique just from a time sense, you know, like it's really difficult to balance all of those things, but to have staff who are so invested in themselves and as a consequence the program, and seeing those two things interlinked, which I think at times, you know, for me, coach development, for example, is player development, and likewise from a professional perspective as an academic, I think your academic development is student development, so and program development. So those things are aligned, and as we continue to grow and strategize about how we do that, it's about helping our programs develop, our students develop, and likewise our staff. So just look forward to continuing to try and be innovative and trying to maybe break down some more of the traditional boundaries that have existed prior.
Cool. No, that's really good. It's, like I say, I think that the approach you guys have got, it's almost you're actively going to the students and to the industry rather than waiting for them to come to you as such. Is cool. So Tom, thanks very much. That's been awesome. Really enjoyed that. Really interesting. Really wide ranging, as I say, in terms of the impact that you guys are having beyond the sort of, I guess, what you might call a traditional student experience. So thanks very much for sharing that. No
problem. Thanks for the invite. Always good to chat with you guys.
Cool. Cheers, Tom.
No problem.